Well, I love it, and Google's research was based on our data. I'll say, so the first company to measure psychological safety was Great Place to Work. Long before Google existed, as a matter of fact. Okay, so we started that in 1998. Google became a company in, I think, 2006. So we were far ahead of the game and had a ton of research. They know this because they used our question set. And leaders that are saying AI is not going to lead to job loss have no credibility in the world. They have no credibility. They need to stop saying that because it is not true. It's already affected employment.
Welcome back to another episode of the Limitless Podcast. Today I'm very, very excited to have with us a special guest. We have Michael Bush with us. He's the CEO of Great Places to Work. He's also the author of the book, A Great Place to Work for All. A book that I read and a book that truly have inspired me. And I was just sharing to Michael before that for many years, I wanted myself to travel over to Vegas to join his conference. This year in April, the dream is coming true. And perhaps today, it's another dream for me to have him here on the show. Michael, a warm welcome to you. How are you today?
I'm doing very good, Nick, and very happy to be here and can't wait to see you in Vegas.
Fantastic. And same here. I almost get goosebumps here now just talking about it. I'm so excited. And I also hope that there's some of the listeners also who will make the leap and book the flight. We have direct flights from Singapore to LA. So it's pretty easy to make our way over to Vegas too.
I hope to see them there.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And Michael, you spent decades studying the best workplaces in the world, and you came across that it's trust, equity, and performance are really influence when we really are measuring it and when we track it, and it's trust that is at the core. Perhaps you can start to kick us off. What was it that inspired you to go down this path and study the workplaces?
Yeah, I think long ago, Robert Levering, really the founder of Great Place to Work, along with Milt Moskowitz, were asked to find out what made a great workplace. And so they traveled around the United States and talked to companies to try and determine what it was. And they figured out it was trust. It was how a person felt when they went to work, whether or not they felt like the person they worked for trusted them. Whether or not they felt like the person they worked for wanted them to grow and to do well, whether they cared about their mental health, their physical health, and their financial health and their well-being, whether or not they felt like the teams, the people that they worked with cared about them and that they cared about their teammates as well, and whether or not they felt like their personal purpose was somehow achieved by the work that they did in working at the company, some connection between who they were and the work that they were doing. So it's a combination of those things. And so we leaned into the social science and came up with 60 questions that we asked to try and measure those things so that we could quantify trust and also quantify fear, the opposite of having trust, and then study whether or not companies who had a high level of trust outperform those that didn't. And overwhelmingly, we found that companies where there is a high level of trust outperform financially, outperform in terms of customer satisfaction and retention and so on, companies that have a lower level of trust.
That's wonderful, Michael. And I know also when I picked up your book, it's called Great Place to Work for All. So how do you define that then? And what was the reason for adding for all?
One of the things that we found out is really in 2013, 2014, was taking a look at companies that we said were great. And when we really looked at the detail, what we found is that the majority population drove our score. So places that had groups of people who were in smaller numbers in terms of demographics, let's say men versus women, we found that the dominant group having a great experience sometimes made us miss the fact that there was another group not having a great experience. And what that told us was all around the world, every workplace is a great place to work for some people. It's often a great place to work for the majority, but it's not always a great place to work for other people. And therefore, companies were basically heating people, training people, cooling people, developing and coaching people who weren't having a great experience. And what if we could maximize their human potential too? So we raised the bar and said that the goal was to be a great place to work for all. And that changed our methodology, made sure that we gave companies analytics to know how everyone was doing. It needed to be a great place to work if you were 22 or if you were 62. It needed to be a great place to work if you were at the company for 6 months or 16 years. And so the demographics enabled us to look at that and realize quickly, wow, look at all these people who are having a great experience, but look at all these people who are not. And let's make sure that we raise, really the experience for everyone, which is by making sure it's a great place to work for all. And that unlocked our methodology. And by the way, led to explosive growth for our company.
Yeah, and I was just going to ask that also. Not only does it mean that people are feeling better at work, they're staying, the retention and so on, but they also outperform the traditional command and control cultures. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so we take a look at all the things like retention, the cost of hiring, attrition, stock market performance, CSAT, customer satisfaction scores, EBITDA, revenue growth, market share growth. We look at all the business metrics and have been able to connect the experience that a person has based on who they work for and who they work with, and whether or not that has a high level of trust. If it does, you find these places to be more innovative, 3 times more innovative. You find these companies to have better financial performance. You find these companies to have better stock price and so on. And so we were able to draw a line between trust and financial performance, and basically looking at a trust score. If you've got 4 out of 10 people having a high trust experience, that place is going to be less innovative and all the other financial metrics compared to a place that has 8 out of 10. And so we wanted to not only have people who care about culture, typically sometimes HR leaders, we wanted to make it everyone's responsibility. And when you talk about trust and how it can help with financial performance, you find that even CFOs around the world care about trust and the experience for all employees. And so that's what we've done. It's led to tremendous growth for us. And the most gratifying thing is that we want every place to be a great place to work for all, not just some companies. And so, as John Pearson from DHL always says, he believes, and they're a great partner of ours, when a person comes home from work, they should be better than the person who left the home to go to work. That the work experience should make them better every day. I love that standard, and that's what we try and achieve everywhere around the world.
And I absolutely love that as well, Michael. It's that holistic approach. I'm writing my second book now, and it's on holistic leadership, where I'm talking, of course, about how we bring in the mental, social health into the workplace, and that how it impacts us all around. And perhaps you can elaborate on that also. How important is it? And you also talk about this in your book, Michael, and in conferences about the physical, mental, and emotional and social health. How does that impact the performance at work?
Yeah, it triples the impact of the performance at work. In any dimension you grab, innovation, enthusiasm, and especially enthusiasm is something we're measuring now, which is whether people are fearful of AI or excited about AI. And so if you've got a high trust workplace, people are willing to experiment. They don't think you're using AI to get rid of their job. They actually think you're using AI to make their job better and to make things better for them. That's the difference. A low trust workplace, high levels of fear, and we've measured this all around the world over the last 3 years, so therefore we can see the difference between who's going to win in implementing thoughtful, fair AI, and who's going to lose based on the level of fear. So, and the 70% of that fear is created or eliminated based on the people leader. 70%. It's not the benefits. It's not the perks. It's that people leader. Whether that person is leading, as we say, an employee or a person. Big difference between those two things. And an employee, you can see through one dimension. A person to accomplish a set of tasks. Somebody who believes in caring for a person is going to look at them holistically as you're describing. So what we're trying to do is make everybody know that leadership is important. Leadership of the past is not going to work. Managing as we adapt to AI means you have to take fear levels down, which means leaders have to get better. They have to get better. And by the way, it's everyone's responsibility to create a great place to work. So you might not be a people leader, meaning have people reporting to you. You are working with people. So you need to be a high trust teammate. You need to care about the people on your team in total. And you don't have to like them, but you need to care about them and you need to respect them. And that becomes reciprocal. So we're raising the bar on what it means to be what we call a for all leader.
Beautiful, Michael. And in my first book, Executive Loneliness, I highlighted isolation in the workplace. And I say that this has to start at the top. If we want to break the isolation, it starts at the top, because no one will dare to speak up if the top leader is not vulnerable, is not authentic, is not open. And there's a lot of talk this year also continued on team psychological safety. We had Google's Project Aristotle really highlighting that for them, what drove high performance was the fact that people felt that they were psychologically safe. What's your take on team psychological safety, Michael?
Well, I love it. And Google's research was based on our data. I'll say, so the first company to measure psychological safety was Great Place to Work, long before Google existed, as a matter of fact. Okay, so we started that in 1998. Google became a company in, I think, 2006. So we were far ahead of the game and had a ton of research. They know this because they used our question set. And so they were able to use our data. We love the fact that they came out of it by linking, trust and psychological safety to high performance. So it was great for us, and so we're very proud of the fact that they used our work along with their own analytics. And as you looked at those teams, you found that as you looked at the leader of those teams, that they treated everyone in the same way. They didn't treat new team members different than old team members. They didn't treat technologists different from scientists. They treated everybody in a way that they knew they were unique and individual, and they wanted to hear from all of them. They wanted to respect all of them. They wanted to learn from all of them. Anybody who opened their mouth could alter the room's point of view, and was treated with that high level of respect. These are the things that created those high performing teams and continue to today.
Yeah, and then if we look at the culture, then many leaders say they want an inclusive culture. There's a lot of talk about that. What separates from this intention to actually impact and making sure that they have an inclusive culture?
I think that to have an inclusive culture, it needs to be something that is expected of leaders. So, as you move around the world, we do work in over 170 countries. In some companies, if you hit all the numbers, you're a great leader. We call that a great manager or a great project manager. We don't call that a great leader. A great leader builds people, helps people grow, and helps people achieve their goals and the things that they want. And so they have to have that holistic view. So there's a big difference between being a great leader and a great project manager or a task person. We also find around the world that somebody who hits all their sales targets, by the way, or hits all of their production targets and creates a negative experience for their people, they need to be held accountable to hitting those numbers and creating a great experience for the people. Because what we found is a leader who creates a poor experience for their employees and hits their numbers, that's not going to be true for long. There's going to be turnover, which is expensive. There's going to be a lack of psychological safety, which is expensive. There's going to be burnout, which is expensive. There are all these things that you don't see in hitting that high number that make it so that you can't build. And if you can't build, you can't innovate, because you need a base to innovate upon. So there's a strong linkage there between the people first leader, the person who understands the way to really have outstanding financial results and have a high customer satisfaction score is through the experience that your people are having. And if you want happy customers, you need to make sure your people are having a great experience. It's not going to work for long having unhappy employees who aren't feeling respected and expecting them to deliver outstanding service for customers. You might get that for a year or two, but not much longer than that.
Yeah. And Michael, it's competitive out there, but also budgets are slashed at the moment that it's really hard to get everything signed off. So if there's some leader who's listening today, perhaps it's a CEO who haven't yet worked with you, any message to them? And especially around how can they use then great places to work for all to become, to get this competitive advantage?
Well, I'd love, Nick, for them to be customers of Great Place to Work, but let's say that they're not. What I would ask the leaders to do is to look in the mirror and to think about what it's like to work for them. And would they want their son or daughter to work for them? There are some people I meet, I would love my sons to work for them. And there's some people I meet and I'm like, I would hope my sons never work for them. So you want to be the kind of leader that people want to work for. Because if you're a great leader, people want to follow you. You don't have to talk them into it. You don't have to intimidate them into it. You don't have to have a comp package to make them want to follow you, because none of those things will work. So therefore, every leader, including myself, has to know what I'm working on, which is always something that I'm working on to be a better leader. I have to know what it is. It affects the way that I listen to people. People want to follow me if I'm listening to them, if I'm willing to have a conversation with them where I'm willing to alter my point of view. As we say, Great Place to Work, if you're having a conversation and you're not willing to alter your point of view, why have the conversation? Okay, why have it? And so we know that listening is important. How we speak to one another is important. How we care for one another is important. How we give candid and compassionate feedback is important. We know these 9 things that leaders need to do in order to create a high trust experience. And that, as Michael Phelps said, who we've done research with in terms of wellness and mental health and well-being, that you're never great. You're always trying to be great. It's something that which takes humility. So these are the things that you don't have to be my customer to grab some of these things and to get on the journey to work. The other thing is, if you want your team to change, your people to improve, which every leader does, it starts with you. People are more willing to adapt and reinvent themselves if you're reinventing yourself.
Yeah. And Michael, talking about change here, it's impossible without asking you a question also about AI, of course. How, according to you, is AI changing the leadership landscape and the employee experience?
Right now, it's not going well. We've been surveying this around the world and have done this for almost 3 years. And the fear level is very high. People feel like it's not being made accessible to all. Some people get some tools, some people get other tools, some people get no tools. Okay, so that's not helping. People have not found the companies that are making tools accessible to them to help them in the work they are doing. It builds trust when people are getting training with tools that are adjacent to the work that they're doing. It makes them feel as though leaders are actually wanting them to get better at the work that they're doing if they do that. And finally, people will adopt AI when they see their leaders adopting AI and talking about it. And leaders that are saying AI is not going to lead to job loss have no credibility in the world. They have no credibility. They need to stop saying that, because it is not true. It's already affected employment around the world. And so the transparency and trust is built by communicating honestly. And so this is what we're trying to encourage leaders to do. So we call it enthusiasm, which is a person feeling like AI is going to make things better for me in my job. AI is going to be good for my career at this company or the next one. And my leaders are communicating with me in a way and making tools available to me that I trust them and the decisions that they're making. It's a combination of those things that creates a person feeling, I trust my company, I trust AI, and therefore I'm willing to adapt and change and use these tools and welcome them rather than resist them.
Yeah, I love that approach, that honest, transparent approach, Michael. And perhaps that's something that we will hear also in Vegas. The conference is around the corner in April, the Great Places to Work Summit. Anything in particular that could be relevant for leaders in Asia who's listening today to this podcast? What can they expect if they come over?
Yeah, if they come over, they'll certainly hear a lot about AI. That is absolutely that I can guarantee that in April we will be talking about that and how to make it so that we can get all the AI benefits. Right now around the world, most people talk about AI in terms of cost reduction and increasing efficiency and performance. We have to move towards how it's going to grow markets for people, how it's going to create more demand for our services, and how we're going to do a better job of finding customers who may not know we can help them with our services. So we have to go from cutting cost to something inspiring, growing markets, and having that available for people. We will be focusing on that. So we will have companies there that are doing a really good job at implementing, adopting AI, having a high trust score where people are saying, we believe in it, we trust our leaders, and we are willing to adapt and change and try new things, and having a lot of, hopefully, inspiration for people across all industries who will be with us in Vegas, talking about how trust leads to great AI adoption and leads to, therefore, better financial performance, and how you can separate yourself from companies that have been leading with fear by leading in this different way. That's a great place to work for all.
That sounds really exciting, and we need that. Many of the CEOs are in Asia are still working in these top-down organizations. There's a big power difference, and they are losing the younger generation. There's a lot of staff turnover there. So we have a lot to learn. So, Michael, I'm looking forward very much to see you there as well in person. Any last message? Anything I forgot to ask you that you want to leave with all the listeners before I let you go today, Michael?
Yeah, well, Nick, thanks for what you're doing and for the books that you're writing. We believe in the same thing. We believe in people and creating a great experience for them. So thank you very much for that. Anybody who's listening, if you are interested in coming to our summit in Vegas, and there's a lot of things to do in America. Vegas is one of them. So we welcome you. Regardless of what you might hear, we welcome you to come to the U.S. and spend some time with us. You can send me an email at michael.bush@greatplacetowork.com, and I'll get you a discount pass to attend the summit. We'd love to have you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming on the show, and thanks to all the listeners as well, and see you in Vegas.